We know a lot of bright young people. We've seen them in action.
Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about you? You are a partner at CMS heading the arbitration team. This is such an amazing position. Why don't you share a bit about that?
Sure. So I joined CMS about a year ago, where I co-head the arbitration group with Richard Bamforth. It's a role.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you much. I was very excited. It's a fabulous firm with a great global reach, and it's just really a fabulous team. And so it's wonderful to be there. So as you might be able to tell from my accent, I am originally from the U.S.
Exactly.
From Michigan originally, but I actually did law school at Vanderbilt, which is in Tennessee, and then I started practicing in Texas. So I'm barred in Texas and Washington, D.C. But I started practicing with King and Spalding in Houston, Texas, and then moved to Washington, D.C., and then to London with K&S, which was a fabulous run. It had a lot of great clients in Texas who are still very good friends and still great clients.
So how does someone from Texas adjust to the London lifestyle? What do you miss the most about Texas?
Oh God, the people and the no nonsense Texan way. I think they're very direct. English people are wonderfully polite and reserved. I'm a bit more direct and open. But luckily I get to go back at least twice a year to Texas, so with the ITA and their events, so that's quite nice. But yes, I moved to London about 10 or 11 years ago now, originally intending to stay for a year or so, and as happens with many people, you stay longer, and have really loved it and call it home. And I would say that the London arbitration community is fabulous, and I couldn't ask for a better place to work.
That's great. And as a woman in arbitration, you have this beautiful career. How do you think is it possible for women in arbitration to also build their careers like you have, and to maybe also build a career not only as arbitration counsel but as arbitrators?
Sure. Well, there's so many bright female attorneys out there, and I think, thankfully, because of all the hard work that's happened prior to my time, I would really cite, the Pledge was an amazing initiative that has really done a great deal to foster diversity.
How did it do that?
Well, so what it essentially does is it makes you think about potential female candidates if they're suitable for a particular role. Prior to the Pledge, when I was an associate, I saw the same partners appoint the same 3 people. The list was already static. It was that they're friends that they knew well, that they were comfortable with, and they didn't really think outside the box. And so there was never really a questioning of, am I really getting the best person, and is there anybody else with similar candidate or qualities that could actually do the job just as well? So I think what the Pledge really allowed the community to do, first with the institutions, but now I'm seeing it more with counsel, is when you're appointing an arbitrator, just to make sure diversity is at the front of mind. I do a lot of energy arbitration, and there are so many women who have specialties in energy. So it's not just the same old candidates. It's thinking clearly about, is this the most diverse list? And when I talk about diversity, gender is one aspect, but it's also ethnic background. It's also diversity of age, and making sure that you've got, some younger candidates involved. So I'm seeing more and more that counsel are actually pushing at the early stages to ensure that the party-appointed arbitrators, or if it's a sole arbitrator appointed jointly, we're factoring in things like diversity.
So when you as counsel prepare a list for your client of arbitrator candidates, how do you select the candidates? How do you go about evaluating their qualifications?
Sure. So I guess one of the things, it depends on if we're talking about a commercial arbitration case or an investor state arbitration case. The latter, there's usually there'll be decisions that are public that we can get a good read on. So depending on what my case needs in terms of what the issues are, what's going to be most important, those might be jurisdictional issues or merits issues, I'll look for somebody who would have the right profile. But then beyond that, it's really finding somebody, what is the governing law. So we obviously want someone who's qualified in the relevant governing law, someone who we think is going to be efficient. Most clients want somebody who's going to, take their matter seriously and work hard and efficiently
How do you determine that up front?
Well, I think different arbitrators have a reputations for this,
So it's the
right?
word of mouth a little bit.
Of course it is, and emails always go out. We've got a LCIA or an ICC arbitration, and we're looking for an arbitrator, with these qualities, and usually the answer is pick up the phone. And there might be an initial short list that you've created, and then you'll ask, and CMS is such a large place, usually you'll get a lot of feedback on other partners who have had those individuals and beyond CMS as well. I think there's a lot of, just checking in with colleagues and seeing if they've had experience with various arbitrators.
One way to push diversity in the arbitrator field is to include tribunal secretaries, because that
Yes.
opens up a whole pool of new, younger candidates that get insights. Now, in Europe, tribunal secretaries are pretty usual. I understand in the US, it's still a developing concept. As someone with that double background, how do you feel about tribunal secretaries?
I love them. I love them when I'm sitting as counsel because I think they can be incredibly efficient. Obviously, they're different arbitrators bill out secretaries at different rates. Some of them do not charge for the secretarial services, which essentially means you're getting more value for your money for your clients. I think most people understand the bounds ethically of what tribunal secretaries should do. I do think it's important to make that clear to the parties at the outset and ask for their permission, provide a CV, and dictate exactly what the role of the tribunal secretary is going to be. Because if it's creating those procedural, drafts and the procedural history and, essentially facilitating the tribunal's work, as long as it's not delegating their decision, I think it's absolutely fine. And I'm a big fan, and I usually am quite happy when an arbitrator, especially in a large case, has somebody who can assist, because it means less hours for them. And
I just issued my first big award as an arbitrator, and
congratulations!
I wish I had a tribunal secretary, so I'm now all the more for tribunal secretaries, because it is a lot of work.
Yeah, it is a lot of work, and sometimes there's certain tasks of research of different types of just procedural issues that can be clearly, if given instruction, tribunal secretaries do a great job of, and I think it makes it more efficient for the parties.
There's a lot of logistics involved also.
Totally.
I had a virtual hearing and
exactly.
That and setting that up.
It really is, and when you sit as arbitrator, you don't want to be billing the parties for things of that nature. So it's really helpful to have somebody who can do those things for you.
Exactly.
No, absolutely.
Well, the future is in the hands of a diverse next pool of cool, prepared, talented.
That's right.
Arbitrators, I hope.
That's right. No, and I can see that more and more. I've had, a lot of times you're not as counsel going to give your bet the company case to a new arbitrator who's never, and it also depends on who you think the co-arbitrators will be, what the amount is in dispute, how important it is of an issue for the client. However, especially I would really encourage people when you've got those smaller commercial disputes to really think about, who would be the right fit for this. And, we know a lot of bright young people. We've seen them in action at conferences, and we've seen, them talk about their practice. We know what they do. So it's important to keep them in mind for appointing some new blood. It's important for the system because we have to continue to have great arbitrators that are efficient and responsive to party needs. There are so many bright young people in this community to choose from.
Speaking of the many bright young people to choose from, let's go and meet them at the conference.
Fabulous. Let's go.
Awesome.